Welcome to Anime Initiative, Comic Book's best and only place where we talk about all things anime, manga, webtoons, and more. My name is Megan Peters, and I am the host of this lovely series with my good friends and co-writers, Evan Valentine and Nick Valdez. How you guys doing?
Howdy, everybody.
Hey, everybody.
All right, so we got to get the big thing out of the way first. One, this is an anime podcast, so if you like anime, you're in the right place. Welcome to our lovely series. Right now, the three of us are what we are. We've been in our post Comic-Con San Diego coma. Now we're in our post My Hero Academia coma. That is where we are at. We have to start the series before we get into our news rundown to confirm, to honor the loss of a true shonen jump giant. We will not be going into spoilers in this episode. Let me stress that emphatically right now. If you're listening to this, we will not be going into spoilers right now. If you want our full spoiler breakdown, our full hour discussion of the ending of My Hero Academia, you're in luck. We did a special bonus episode like 2 days ago where we talked about this. So you can pause, go listen to that, and then come back because right now we're just kind of taking a moment to bring back our conversation for My Hero Academia. It's been a couple days since we've read the ending, and I wanted to check in with Nick and Evan and see how you guys are feeling about the ending. A couple days out, now that we've had some time to process the very intense chapter. So I'm going to put Evan on the spot first. How are you feeling?
I feel exactly the same.
Really?
I mean, in terms of like, I guess I feel a little bit better about it in terms of kind of its ending and everything. I know that we had our issues that we kind of talked about a couple days ago in terms of how we thought that it ending, but I did. Nick brought up a great point during our last talk, which everyone should download and listen to at their earliest convenience. Nick came up with a great point when he talked about like this feels like a better ending than the typical shonen endings that we have seen in the past, and I do agree with that. Were there things that I wish that they had done differently? Sure, but I think that Nick just made a great point with that in terms of like this did feel like an ending that was very heartfelt. Kohei Horikoshi clearly, put everything on the table in terms of giving us enough without going overboard in terms of my idea, which was giving every single character their own chapter. But for the most part, like it set out what it accomplished to do. And I still feel kind of, if anything, I guess I feel a tad better than I did originally on it. But for the most part, I think like positives and negatives still stand.
What about you, Nick? Are you still on your hill, or have you moved anywhere?
Yeah. I've also like gotten over it a little bit. I think it's like it's tough like to dance around spoilers. I still don't agree with how everything went down, but like I said in the episode itself, thematically it all makes sense, and it is the story Horikoshi wanted to tell, and he was able to do so. And when looking back on it, there's a lot of stuff that like came full circle, and he was able to do that. It's just the little details that I still don't like really gel with. But at the same time, it's also over. So it's like, I can't really harp on it too much until the anime ends, and I can harp on it again. It's like what I'm going to do with Demon Slayer. I had my problems with Demon Slayer and how it ended. I can't wait till it gets to that point in the anime so I can be like, oh, there it is again. I hope they fix that. And I think from now, the conversation is going to change. And that's why my position on it has changed. Like I look on it more fondly because it's kind of the Attack on Titan situation where we're going to look at the anime and go, well, how is the anime going to adapt that ending and maybe change it and flesh it out? Is it like, will My Hero Academia end with season 8? Will it end with season 8, but it has the 25 episodes, and then it does what Evan like kind of suggested and has an episode focused on like each of the key characters, sort of like how the epilogue did, but gives us more time to like really get into the ending? Is it going to be like that? Is it going to be like Demon Slayer where they turn like an 8-chapter arc into a whole 8-hour season? So we'll see where it goes. And I think that's all it is. Like I'm just I'm moving on already.
Nick's done. Nick is ready to be done with this conversation until the anime brings it back up. And that's fine. That's fine because I'm here. I'm here on this podcast and I will never get over My Hero Academia. I think I don't think. I know. I made a really good decision after we had our podcast and I finished work on Sunday. I took a break, walked away from My Hero Academia, and that evening before I went to bed, I reread the epilogue from chapter 1 to the very end. I reread the whole epilogue like it was an entire like volume essentially. And the pacing of it all, reading it all in like one sprint, all those like 5 chapters, it made the pacing feel a lot better for me. It made a whole lot more sense. And I wasn't as frustrated about some of the things that we've discussed in our longer discussion in the bonus episode, which you should go listen to if you haven't. I feel a lot better about it. So I think my key takeaway is if you are a big fan of the series and you're struggling with some of the pacing and the kind of the glossing over of certain aspects in the final chapter, go back and reread the epilogue from like its first chapter all the way through. Just power through it. Go onto the Shonen Jump app, Manga Plus, whatever you need. Read the epilogue from start to finish, and it works so much better, I feel. So that is my recommendation to the world. But we do have a couple of actual news tidbits about My Hero Academia to go through before we kind of move on to our next topic. The main thing is, much like One Piece before it, Shueisha has launched a global popularity poll for My Hero Academia. So, what does that mean? Well, I wish it was cooler because when Naruto did this global popularity poll, the winner got like a whole manga chapter dedicated to it by Masashi Kishimoto, and it was ultimately the Minato one, the fourth Hokage, and it slapped. It was such a good chapter. Unfortunately, My Hero Academia is not getting that response. The global popularity poll, which you can find the link to vote at Comic Book, which we have covered, you basically vote for your favorite character in the first round of voting. And then the top 3 winners of the first round of voting will go into the second round of voting for the Plus Ultra stage. And then the winner between those top 3 picks will get a special illustration by Kohei Horikoshi, which, you know what, that's fine. Let the man rest. And then they're going to get like a little special like bronze trophy that I can only assume will be shown at like, in-person events like Jump Festa or New York Comic Con, places like that. So that's kind of the big announcement that My Hero Academia was teasing that was going to come with the manga ending. It's a popularity poll. So everybody can vote for that if you want, no matter where you are. I've been religiously voting for Deku because if you pay attention to the popularity poll, while I do love Bakugo, he's been in first place for like the last 4 popularity polls. And I feel like it's time that Izuku wins. But maybe that's just me.
You can't
Also,
beat Bakugo. It's
I
impossible.
know that's the problem.
Yeah,
Bakugo's such a good Deutero protagonist. They've also announced that we're getting our first art book for My Hero Academia, which like I don't know how we haven't gotten that before now. We've gotten like guidebooks and some stuff like that here and there, but we're getting a full-fledged art book, which is going to come with never before seen concept art, things like that. So that's going to be super exciting. So to move on from My Hero Academia, because there are other things in the anime world to talk about, this piece of information actually caught me off guard because I thought we were done talking about it. But I love all things mech, and it seems like the live-action Voltron adaptation that Hollywood has been shopping around for a few years is actually going to happen. So Nick, I know that you first reported on this, but it seems like Amazon MGM Studios has decided that they do want to get a live action adaptation of Voltron going. Can you tell me about it?
Yes. So news started popping up in like a couple years back about a live action Voltron from the writer or director behind Red Notice and Central Intelligence and more, Ross and Marshall Thurber. It was being shopped around for Amazon MGM, but also a bunch of other studios who could potentially be interested in it. But then now a new report is stating that Amazon has officially greenlit it, but still reporting. This is all still very much like they greenlit it with casting beginning in the next couple of months. So if they are moving forward, if the report is correct, we should be seeing movement on it fairly soon, and that That's to me that's exciting because I do love Voltron. I do love Go Lion. I loved even Car Voltron of like all the vehicles that put together. There was like 50 of them that like formed a new Voltron. And and I love the version on Netflix. And this is one of those properties that like that has been trying to like come back. There's been like talks of a live action one for years. It goes way beyond 2022 also. This has been one of those. This is one of those like development hell type of projects of like, let's get a live action Voltron. And I kind of want to see what that looks like. Is this, is this going to be a Power Rangers-esque kind of movie? Is it going to be like, Dwayne The Rock Johnson as like as leading the Voltron?
Plays
okay. Comic book loves Dwayne The Rock Johnson. Please help. I'm begging you in this moment.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, is he going to be in it? Is he going to be Voltron? Like, is that going to like
the Lions assemble into Dwayne The Rock Johnson? Dude, I'm down. I'm down.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, yeah, like we could see. I'm excited to see how this turns out. That's all it is. Like, if it moves forward, if this is finally happening, then I'm in. But if not, then that's okay too. This is just one of those, right?
I mean, here's the thing. Voltron, I mean, some people may not know about it, but I mean, Voltron still has a very active fandom, if not simply because of the kind of revival that Netflix did back in 2016, 2017 with Studio Mir. They created their own kind of anime version of Voltron, the Legendary Defender, which I, to this day, still go back and watch. I thought that adaptation was a wonderful modernization of the franchise. And so I know I feel like the support is there for something. And then if you look at series like Transformers that have had a very long lasting live action imprint on Hollywood, in terms of live action adaptations, I feel like Voltron is up there in terms of storytelling, action, things like that. It just, the problem is, in comparison to Transformers obviously had a larger pop culture footprint in, the United States than I would say Voltron did. But as anime has become bigger and bigger, we are seeing more and more of these live action adaptations becoming, greenlit because more and more people are either accessing series like Voltron or they're willing to admit that they love Voltron. It's a situation of the two. So, again, as Nick kind of alluded, this project has kind of been in development hell, much like Akira still is in Hollywood. And if Amazon MGM Studios is moving forward with it, I feel like Voltron definitely has, potential. I know we still have that, Gundam adaptation cooking over, in development in Hollywood. So I guess really the question is now, which one will come out first, Voltron or Gundam? We'll see.
I mean, Voltron was like, in a way, like the importance of Voltron it was one of those anime that introduced so many kids back in the day to anime for the first time. Like, I remember waking up super early and like seeing Voltron on the television and being like, why does this look so different?
Was my anime before I knew anime, like Dragon
Ball.
It
was
Voltron.
an American anime, much like how Power Rangers and like VR Troopers and Big Bad Beetleborgs were American adaptations of tokusatsu shows. This Voltron in particular was World Events Productions adaptation of the long-running Go Lion series, and that's why there is a vehicle Voltron, because eventually after like 100-something episodes, they're like, well, we have this car version, let's just keep calling it Voltron. And that's what Evan's talking about. This is one of those, like, this is the OG American anime. So and it kind of perfectly ties into how everything's shaping up now, where you're getting a lot of that kind of blend of American production studios and Japanese animation influence. And it's like, it's all coming full circle. And Voltron should be able to like revel in that, right? Like, it should be able to be that kind of franchise again.
I would love nothing more than it. Mainly because I just miss the Netflix Voltron series so much. If there's any overlap,
really good.
I love that Voltron series so much. And going to our next piece of news, which I know Evan is gonna lose his mind over, because as soon as the news broke, he had just gone on his lunch break, and I was like, "Stop what you're doing." Is that what you're doing, Kevin?
Stop!
This news
Stop
was
eating!
meant for you.
Stop
It's
eating!
official. Junji Ito has signed a movie deal, and
Mhm.
not just any movie deal, a pretty significant movie deal. It has been announced officially that Junji Ito is partnering with Fangoria Studios, which, if you do not know Fangoria, it is a beloved institution in the horror entertainment community for reporting and
Mhm.
even film productions to a degree, as well as Through the Lens Entertainment to co-produce 3 what we assume live action adaptations of Junji Ito stories.
Mhm.
So we know for sure that the 3 that have been approved as part of this movie deal, one is Bloodsucking Darkness. So
Mhm.
that's great. But then the thing of my literal nightmares is being adapted. The Mystery of the Haunted House Part 1 and Part 2 are also part of this deal. So when I pinged Evan, I was like, all right, I'll write this. You're going on lunch. I want you to, you know what? Your time is very important to you. I'm not gonna make you work on your lunch. That's silly. And he was like, okay, well, just be careful when you're writing about the mystery of the haunted house. And I was like, okay, that's a weird warning. I immediately Googled it and I have not slept peacefully since. So Evan,
So
please talk to us about this movie deal.
yes, Junji Ito is teaming up, as Megan said, is teaming up with Fangoria Studios for 3 live action movies. And as Megan had said, it's the first is Bloodsucking Darkness, which is kind of a new take on vampires. It's
Mhm.
also like everything Junji Ito does is very creepy, like very, very scary, like new ideas in the horror realm. And the second one, which I'm honestly shocked is one of the ones that they went with. I say that because Mystery of the Haunted House, which was collected in North America as a part of the compilation known as Smashed, which is the main story of that is about people who get addicted to eating a certain kind of honey in the rainforest where they are targeted by giant Venus flytraps that smash them into the ground. It's wild, man. Just read just read some of these horror stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I love
like
when
just
you describe Junji Ito shorts to me that I haven't read myself yet, because every time I think you're hallucinating.
I know it's wild, and that was I felt so bad for when Megan you had to look this up because I know I see the one of the most terrifying images that Junji Ito has ever done, and it's one of the best jump scares that he has ever done is in Mystery of the Haunted House. Now, for those who don't know, Mystery of the Haunted House is if I had to talk about a story that was the most in continuity story for any of Ito's works, it would be this one. Typically, Junji Ito tends to do a lot of stories that are kind of anthology. They're short stories. They all focus on different aspects of horror, but he has some returning characters, one of which is Soichi, who is he's kind of the Loki of the Junji Ito horror universe. He has a lot of stories where he's a mischief maker. And in Mystery of the Haunted House, one of the things is that one of the aspects of it is that he is now an adult. He is running a haunted house where he is putting his family through hell and back, where they are participants in the haunted house. And Ito takes the opportunity to bring back another one of his characters, which is known as the Model. Again, this is one of those things where if you want to look up any of this stuff on Google, I'm not necessarily saying it's not safe
Yeah,
for
we're
work.
not including the screenshots in this live
Yeah,
stream on Twitch or
I was
anything,
really
'cause I'm
thinking
kinda scared we'll get banned. We'll get
I was
jailed.
thinking if you were going to include those in, and it's like
No,
it's very
because
good that
it
you
would
didn't.
scare me.
It,
I would be scared, and I know we're
it's
talking about it.
it is super scary. But this story in particular brings back those characters that he had done. A couple of them. It doesn't have Tomie, another one of his big characters that he's introduced in the past. But there's no release date currently. There's no casting news either on Bloodsucking Darkness or on Mystery of the Haunted House. Um, so it will be very interesting to see kind of how they approach this in terms of will they keep the same characters that were, that are staples in Junji Ito's works in the past, or will they kind of take the bare bones outline of what the story was and kind of slap it on to a new story for the movie and kind of make it more of a haunted house thing. But I will be super interested to see kind of like the budgets on these things, how they're brought about, as well as there actually has never been an anime adaptation of, I don't believe there's been one for Bloodsucking Darkness or Mystery on the Haunted House, so this will
that's
be
what I
the
was going to
first
ask
time.
too. That's what I was going to ask too. I wonder if these stories were chosen in particular because, like, kind of so much else has been adapted into any, like, what was it? Maniac was one for Netflix.
Yeah.
Then there
Maniac,
was the
Japanese Tales of the Macabre.
yes, and then there was the separate, like, Scary Stories. I think that was like a seasonal anime
The
once,
the
and
Junji Ito collection.
yes, and then of course the Tomie Quibi series was one that tried to get off the
That
ground, and
failed
then like
failed to happen.
yes, and then Uzumaki coming to Adult Swim. So I'm wondering, is it these stories that are the only ones left? Like, is that why these are the ones chosen, or is it because they have an idea to take those forward? That's going to be what it is for me.
Yeah, I would have to imagine that they're kind of looking at it. I mean, that's a great point. Is the idea that they're kind of looking at it from a perspective of these are also both stories that I think aren't as, like, there are stories in Ito's, like, trying to create something like a live action version of the Hanging Balloons, I think would be nigh impossible. Or Gyo, which is the story about that I shared with Megan about the
The shark
sharks
with
and
the
fish.
spider legs, right?
Yeah, with the spider legs
That
that
would
come out of the.
that would actually be my new nightmare fuel. If that
Oh,
ever
and
happened.
there is an anime movie of that. That's actually pretty good. For a while, I thought that was one of the best Junji Ito anime adaptations. But we'll see kind of how they do it. I think that neither of these require huge budgets in order for them to be effective for Bloodsucking Darkness and Mystery of the Haunted House. So I'll be interested to see. And also, I'll be interested to see what the third movie is. I'll have to start doing, that's actually an idea for a write-up that I think I'll do, which is what could the third movie be? Which ones haven't been brought to the anime adaptation yet? So that would be super interesting.
Well, I just love all the success that Junji Ito is getting right now between this movie deal. Also, we know that Uzumaki is finally going to be coming out in the near future. It is definitely an overdue renaissance here, I would say in, Western pop culture. So I'm here to support it. And obviously we know Evan is, as he is the world's #1 Junji stan. So
I try.
you often succeed, which is incredibly impressive because the stuff he comes out with is terrifying. I also want to take a second because there's been a piece of news in the anime fandom that right now it's making me angry. And we talk about this on this podcast, also in, A Wild Podcast has appeared, our Pokemon podcast that I co-host. Man, Japan gets all the cool stuff. They get the cool, like, cafe collaborations. They get the cool restaurants. I mean, we're starting to get that now here in the United States, but it's not nearly enough. And the reason I'm complaining about this now, and it shouldn't surprise anybody, it is that Chainsaw Man has announced that it is doing a collaboration with Universal Studios Japan. Let's confirm. Not the one in Hollywood. It's not the one in Orlando. It is specifically Universal Studios Japan. Chainsaw Man is doing a collaboration with. They just announced it's for Halloween Horror Nights, which, if you're not aware, it is kind of the Universal Studios, their Halloween thing. Disney does, like, it's not so scary, trick or treat nights. Universal Studios, they go the opposite direction. They go in with the blood, they go in with the gore and the scares. They have crazy haunted houses, meet and greets, all sorts of stuff. So in Universal Studios Japan this year, starting in September, they're going to be bringing not only meet and greet Chainsaw Man characters to the park, but you'll be able to meet Chainsaw Man in person, but also it is announced that they are doing a roller coaster re-theme of the Hollywood Dream ride at Universal Studios Japan. So that ride is kind of similar to the ride at, I know, like the Universal Studios Orlando one, where, like, you can play which music, like, you want to when you're riding the roller coaster. I've never actually been on that roller coaster because I am a chicken, but my husband has, and he really enjoys it. The Hollywood Dream is also like that. It combines music with roller coaster visual effects, projection technology. So it is bringing the Chainsaw Man, anime to that roller coaster, where we will be able to see Denji as Chainsaw Man fight Katana, basically the Katana Devil, essentially, while on this roller coaster, all while listening to Kickback by Kinshi Onezu, who did the opening theme song for season 1 of Chainsaw Man. So essentially, you get to, like, go on this ride, experience one of the biggest fights from Chainsaw Man season 1. Then you get to go outside. Be scared by Chainsaw Man or Power or any of those, Makima in person. I'm sure they're going to have really cool snacks or something. Japan gets all the cool stuff. I'm so upset.
It's number one, like, yeah, we need this. Number one, we need this stuff in North America. Like, bring this to just as a test run. Bring something. It doesn't have to be Chainsaw Man, but just bring any anime. Like Universal Studios Japan has Attack on Titan stuff. But the second thing I wanted to say, and I thought of this when you mentioned it, Megan, just talking about Chainsaw Man and being a part of the horror nights and everything, and you guys can help me out with this because I forget the name of this character, and this isn't huge spoilers, but it's kind of spoilers for the assassin arc, I believe, like the manga of Chainsaw Man. Do you guys remember the character who has all of the female characters with her that all they can say is Halloween? And I thought that would be such Yeah, that would be such a cool thing. Imagine having those characters just walking around saying Halloween disturbingly.
I'm sure they're going to show up at some point. I'm so frustrated. Like, it's such a cool idea. So, like, the official synopsis for this Chainsaw Man, takeover, it's being called officially Chainsaw Man the Chaos 4D. So you're going to be on this kind of like 4D roller coaster track. Essentially, it's saying that all the people who are on this ride are basically original characters that are attending Halloween Horror Nights in the Chainsaw Man universe. You're visiting a 4D theater to watch a horror movie that features Pumpkin Smiley, which is a devil, a Halloween devil, essentially, in this universe. You're attending the film with Aki, Power, Denji, Kobani, everybody else who is snuck into the park because they've heard rumors that moviegoers go missing every year when they watch this film. So it begins, and as the movie starts, Pumpkin Smiley reveals himself to be an actual devil attended by other familiar devils that we know, and Denji must turn into Chainsaw Man and escort you out with his friends and take down basically all of the opposing devils that are there. It's so cool. It's so cool. And we don't get it. I will never get over how unfair this is. That's just where I am at this point. Like, Chainsaw Man is massive, and there was already kind of conversations and petitions to have Chainsaw Man in some way, shape, or form, appear in Halloween Horror Nights for either Hollywood or Orlando. Obviously, that did not happen as far as, the public is concerned, but it did get that treatment in Japan. So, like right now in Universal Japan, they just updated the Hollywood Dream Ride for Demon Slayer, the Hashira training arc. So, like, it's cool. I'm sad. That's where I'm at.
It's fine. Whatever.
and the thing is I really don't foresee a future in which this treatment comes to the United States, but I'm never going to stop hoping. I can never stop hoping. That's where I'm at. I don't know about you guys, but so cool.
Yep.
Anyways.
Yep. I think you just got to go. You got to go big. I mean, you mentioned Pokemon. I think that would be like the ultimate. That would be the ultimate big push. Just much like the Super Mario World, just make an entire part of the section that's focused on Pokemon and see how it goes. Anime's getting bigger.
Man, I don't even want to know the wait times that would be necessary if they had a Pokemon park at Universal Studios or something, and they had like a safari zone you could be in. That would be ridiculous. But either way, that's neither here nor there. In order to finish up this kind of news roundup before we head to our deep dive conversation for the episode, we do have to mention Kaiju No.8 did kind of surprise everyone this week. It told people that they were going to have a big announcement for the anime this week, and it delivered. It released our first kind of teaser trailer for season 2, confirming that Kaiju No.8 is going to be released in 2025. So we're not going to have to wait long for it. But also we got the announcement that given the success of Kaiju No.8, the team is creating a compilation film, essentially, that's going to be put into theaters in Japan. That's going to kind of summarize everything that happened in season 1 of Kaiju No.8. But there's also going to be an original episode that's tied to it that's going to basically go over Hoshina's day off. So we're going to get some cute slice of life stuff. But, the update on Kaiju No.8 I mean, it was a surprising update, I guess, for some fans. But I mean, if you are familiar, I will say, with the anime fandom, and particularly the shonen fandom, you'll know that Kaiju #8 was massive. I mean, it was
Mhm.
absolutely huge when it premiered earlier this year. So it's not surprising that we're already getting updates on season 2. You know, the team at that's overseeing the series, they're not gonna want to lose any of the momentum that they got with season 1. So really, I'm not surprised that it's getting a 2025 release. You know, it'll give us content to fanboy and fangirl over next year. Mainly, I'm curious about the compilation film. I would love for it to be released here in the United States, but I guess we'll have to see how that goes.
Yeah, I'm glad it's just confirmed to be a season 2. Like we
Yeah.
Mhm.
talked about when the sequel was first announced. It's that it's the pedantic part of me that's like, man, like why can't you just say whether it's a season 2? Because a sequel could mean they could mean, oh, here's a movie adapting the next arc. Here's a whatever. Here's an OVA. So the fact that it is a full season of the TV show, that's big. And in
Mhm.
Mhm.
terms of like when it'll actually hit, if we're lucky, like spring summer again, like if they've
Mhm.
been on track for development for the show and basically started season 2 at the same time they started season 1, we could be seeing it in spring. But if not, like maybe like a cool fall 2025 release. I don't think it'll
Mhm.
be that long though. I do think like maybe summer. Like summer seems like a pretty great time for a kaiju show, so
Yeah.
I would love to see it.
I
Yeah.
think that I'm gonna take the opportunity to knock My Hero Academia for this, because I know that both My Hero Academia and Kaiju #8 at the same time said they had a giant announcement that was coming, and I believe they were both revealed yesterday. But whereas Kaiju #8 said, "Okay, we're doing a compilation film and season 2 is confirmed," My Hero Academia is like nothing against a popularity poll. And I guess it's just bigger in Japan versus North America. But when you're touting a huge announcement, I'm thinking, oh, Vigilantes is going to get an anime, or maybe far out there, Horikoshi is doing a sequel, like some other kind of thing, and just like that's Kaiju #8. This is a big announcement reveal.
I
Mhm.
mean,
Popularity poll.
to to be fair to My Hero Academia, I mean, I can't believe
Mhm.
I'm defending it, but to be fair, the wording was not a huge project being teased. It was just secret project, which of
Oh,
course
okay.
we also said during. You can go listen to the spoiler talk. We were here saying, oh well, don't expect anything big. It's probably just like another art book or a volume or something. And look, don't expect anything big, but a worldwide global popularity poll is big. So
Yeah.
I am going to sit here and defend that because not only do us in North America, we rarely get those popularity polls.
That's
That's
Mhm.
true.
something that Japan gets to have every like season, basically a seasonal thing. But I think Viz Media did it maybe like once or twice, in recent memory that I can remember for My Hero Academia specifically. So like the
Mhm.
fact that we get to also vote in this poll and vote for Deku instead of Bakugo. That's huge. But they did. That's what I'm saying. I don't mean to defend, but pedantically, they did not say huge project. They said secret. It was a secret project. So I can't believe I'm defending it over Kaiju #8, which I'm like super excited about. But here we are.
And here we are. Well, we do have confirmation officially. Kaiju #8, the sequel, is going to be a season 2. It will be released in 2025, and it will be prefaced by a compilation film that will contain kind of an original anime short. So we're getting really, we're being fed very well by Production IG, and I will give them their flowers for doing so. So, man, it's just busy. The state of anime. It's just like, all right, we're done with this season. Let's go, let's go, let's go. I mean,
Mhm.
even
Yeah.
today, Atsushi Kaneko, who is one of the executive producers of Solo Leveling, tweeted out, and he was like, "We're done. Season 2 production, dubbing, it's over. We're finished. We're going. We're going to release something for you guys soon." And that season doesn't even have a release window yet. Like Solo
Mhm.
Leveling, that producer is like, "All right, we're going. We're going. We're going." So it seems like studios, when they have a hit, are really trying to capitalize on that momentum while they have it. And that's not always been the case with, anime hits. So I'll take it. But that is what we have for our news rundown for the day. We're going to take a quick break to pay for the show. But when we come back, we're going to have a deep dive conversation to discuss what the future of the next era of Shonen Jump and just Shonen in general looks like, because we have a lot of finales on the way that, was just kickstarted by My Hero Academia. So if you want to talk about the series that you need to be paying attention to now, stay tuned. And welcome back to Anime Initiative, the best and favorite place at Comic Book to talk about all things anime, manga, webtoons, and more. We are back for our deep dive discussion where we are really about to kind of dive into what is going to lead the next era of Shonen forward. So to be clear, we're not just going to be talking about Shonen Jump, though that will be a large portion of our discussion. There's a reason why Shonen Jump is heralded as one of the major publications for action manga. It's because it has a lot of them. But there are other publishers that are, making their way into this, demographic and genre. So the reason we're talking about this is obviously we began our podcast discussing this today. My Hero Academia, the manga, is officially done. We still have some anime to go through. Obviously, the anime is not done adapting this, but My Hero Academia is over. Finite. It's done. Even if we kind of do get a sequel, which, could happen, maybe, I hope so, fingers crossed. But, we have no confirmation of that. Even if we get a sequel, the series is popular, but there needs to be new blood in the shonen genre. It just has to happen. It has happened cyclically for decades and decades, and now it feels like we're reaching a turning point for this genre. I mean, we know that Jujutsu Kaisen is nearing its end, which is currently like the top seller of series for Weekly Shonen Jump. One Piece is in its final saga, and that still may take like 4 or 5 years to go through, but it is in its final stretch. We have series, even though it's in Jump Giga now, Black Clover, it's in its final push forward. We have other smaller series like Twin Star Exorcist that have announced that they're going to be closing soon. There's a lot that is going on in the shonen genre that is coming to an end, which then necessitates for what does the next era look like. I have my own thoughts, but first I want to open the conversation to my friends here. What is the shonen genre going to do now that My Hero Academia is done?
I think the big question isn't so much like I think that it'll be kind of a stumble. I don't even want to say stumble in the road because like they're going to be fine, but like the fact that Megan, you mentioned a number of the other shonen series that are already coming to an end. Like, what do they do when One Piece ends? That's really like one of the big ones.
I can't. I mean, just to be frank, that series is older than I am. So like I have never existed in a world without One Piece. Like I've existed in a world without My Hero. I existed in a world without Naruto. I don't know what it's like to exist in a world without One Piece.
I mean, and we're going to obviously touch upon some of the series that we think are going to be able to kind of carry the torch. But the idea of it is kind of this weird, it's a scary slash exciting time because you get to see. I mean, obviously, the big one to point to is Kagurabachi. I think that is a
That is
series
the series literally everybody knows at this point.
it's the series that everybody knows, and it's one of those series that kind of did the impossible in terms of becoming huge before it has an anime adaptation. You know, we've written here at Team Anime on a comic book. We have written a lot of stories where we look at sales when it comes to My Hero Academia sales went up huge when the anime adaptation was created by Studio Bones. But like for the instance of Kagurabachi, the sales for that are already huge. We've seen examples of that with this will kind of dive into some ideas that I have for the future, but like for Blue Lock is doing amazing in terms of it.
Blue Lock are.
And yeah, the anime adaptation has helped with that, but it kind of goes to the idea of like where I believe anime is going kind of in the future in terms of where we're still, there's always going to be a place for battle anime in general, just ones that focus on fighting and stuff like that. But I feel like we are in a place where anime is not only becoming more popular, but it is growing and evolving in a way that we are able to see the stories. Just a whole bunch of stories are beginning to evolve, and the ones that ultimately we couldn't see in any other, like, has there ever been like a dramatic soccer live action television show? And for those who are listening outside of the country, obviously,
have you never seen the classic film Bend It Like Beckham?
I was about to say Shaolin Soccer, but
okay, Shaolin Soccer, awesome.
Like
okay, literally Shaolin Soccer is the definition, but also put respect on Bend It Like Beckham.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
I mean, soccer shows, you've got like Ted Lasso and stuff like that. So,
like, true. Yeah,
give me Ted Lasso the manga. That's the slice of life we need.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, that's the kind of stuff Evan's talking about, where it's like, you know, you can translate that sort of shonen aura into, well, that's the sports anime aspect of it all. And like, there are sports series that could, like, what I wanted to mention though is that, like, Evan, like you two are alluding to, there's a power vacuum. Like when Shonen Jump ends a massive series, and it's not just like, this isn't just a normal ending. This is an ending to one of the pillars of Shonen Jump. This is one of the series that people argued that, oh, this is part of the new three of the, or the new big three of the new gen, which is a whole other conversation, because big three really was of its time just a small detour. Like, we're never going to get that again. I know people are like, oh, new big three, that's never going to happen again. That was like a lightning in a bottle situation, never going to happen again. But where we are now is with My Hero Academia ending, it does leave a vacuum for a new series to kind of take over and to take its place. And unfortunately, it might just be Kagurabachi, because it is early enough in Kagurabachi's run that folks haven't soured on it yet. It also, like, it got so big before the first chapter even released due to like memes alone. So it's got like that, it's starting out in a place that it's very promising for the future. I don't know if it'll ever get as big as My Hero Academia, because the thing with Kagurabachi is that, yes, like My Hero Academia, it's influenced by the West, and it's influenced by Western movies and action movies, and the way it's boarded and the way you look at it, you're like, oh yeah, this is very cinematic in presentation, and an anime could take that to the next level. But there's something different about My Hero Academia, which is like, as for as much as I'll complain about it here on the show, and as much as I'll dog on it, it's the appeal to everyone. And that's the thing that Shonen Jump is going to be missing out on. Like, One Piece is that current example, but One Piece is such a like a monolith in its own right that like it's still got that level of approachability, like that, or it's got a non-approachability really of like, people look at it, like non-fans look at it and like, oh, it's such a big thing, I don't know if I want to join in on it. But My Hero Academia had that appeal that Kagurabachi doesn't. Like, My Hero Academia is like, it really is a story about for everyone, and it's literally like a story about how we all became the world's greatest hero. Like, it's literally written into its core DNA to be approachable by everyone. And that's something that a shonen series, yes, shonen means in the basest of terms means for 13-year-old boys, but to take that to the next level and to take that to a stage where we could get a worldwide popularity poll being announced after it's ended, and to get people participating in it all over the world, is to have that worldwide appeal. And something like Kagurabachi might be too esoteric, and that's unfortunate. Like when you look at some of the other series in Shonen Jump, they're great in their own right, but they're also sort of esoteric, like Sakamoto Days, Old Man Assassin, incredible. I love it. It's a rule of cool series. They do the coolest things possible in every scene just because it's the coolest thing possible. And when it's finally adapted, it's going to explode. But at the same time, it's not a series that's going to appeal to everyone. And other series like Dandadan, not going to appeal to everyone. It wasn't until earlier last month, I think, that it was finally available on the app. Like it was only available in the Viz Media Digital Shonen Jump website because of some of its content.
It wasn't in the app because of its maturity rating.
Yeah, that's yeah.
Now I don't content. Right.
And like with Akane Banashi, another series that I absolutely adore about the inner workings of Rakugo. It's about the inner workings of Rakugo. And
if you know what Rakugo is, say it in the chat. That's what that's our point.
And that's the same thing. It's in that same vein of past Shonen Jump successes like Hikaru no Go, which was taking Go and trying to make it like appealing.
It's very Chihaya Furu.
Yes, it's taking that very cultural relevant thing and trying to make it appealing to everyone. And this is basically all to say, like, this is what to be like. This is the question we're asking at the end of the day: is what is the next My Hero Academia? And unfortunately, I don't think we know yet, because we don't have that series that is going to have this incredible amount of pull worldwide, not just in Japan, not just with anime fans, but to someone who looks at it and is like, what is that? Right. And I think that is going to be key.
So there's two major conversations that are going on right now that have to be delineated. One is the question of, is there a new My Hero Academia? What is the new My Hero Academia? And the other question is what does the next era of shonen look like in the face of all of these pretty major conclusions that are on the horizon, that are just now kind of starting with My Hero Academia, and before it, Mama Yu Yu, rest in peace. Never even got a chance. But looking at the conversation of, is there a new My Hero Academia ready to go? Is there that kind of pillar?
Right.
I have to lean with Nick on this. I feel like, everybody right now in the shonen space is looking at Kagurabachi. They're looking at it as like this manga messiah almost for the publication. And to a degree, Shueisha's also done that. Its executives have poured in a lot of resources in doing reprints for Kagurabachi, and the global fandom, to be fair, has responded. I mean, a huge portion of global fans are pre-ordering and purchasing Kagurabachi volumes from Japan and getting them, exported and then imported, because they want to show support to this series. I mean, that is a level of dedication that is rarely seen by the fandom at large. But when I look at something like Kagurabachi in terms of its action, its fight structure, its power structure, it feels to me something like more of a successor to Jujutsu Kaisen. It feels like there's more of that, sharper edge to it that is a little bit less approachable than something like My Hero Academia, that really, I feel like, had a layman's approach to it. It was an everyday anime. It was very bright, colorful. It was very, it wasn't difficult to follow. Like, it wasn't hard to follow that series in terms of its plot structure, its characterization. It was in that same respect, we saw that kind of, structure with Naruto, which, everyone said My Hero Academia took the page from Naruto and ran with it. So now the question is what will take the page of My Hero Academia to run with it? Right now, in terms of what we have for Shueisha's lineup, nothing particularly sticks out to me except for two potential franchises. And it all depends on their anime adaptations. One, happening, and two, being an absolute success. The first one is I feel like, actually against kind of what Nick said, I feel like Dandadan does have that ability to it. It's a little bit more difficult in terms of, its power structure and supernatural ghosts versus aliens. And as you get further into the manga, that stuff becomes more complicated. But in terms of its characterization and in terms of the main characters that we meet in Dawn to Dawn, I feel like they have more of that kind of everyday appeal, that kind of color, that kind of easy character design that makes them very marketable, essentially, within the fandom. My top pick, though, is probably more controversial because I feel like Witch Watch would be so good for this. It's got the fantasy aspect, which is blowing up right now in the shonen sphere. The characters are easily relatable. We got kind of the two main characters that we know you kind of have, the will they, won't they relationship aspect too. It's an easy series to follow with some drama attached to it. Really, if anything, I think the thing that's holding back Witch Watch is the lack of stakes at this point.
Yeah.
For me, especially, it doesn't feel like there's a lot of stakes to Witch Watch. It has everything that I need from a really good Shonen Jump series, except for that, which is a major point against it. So that's kind of,
Yeah.
there's something in every series that's out right now that I'm just like, ugh. I feel like also something like Ruri Dragon could get there. It's just it was on hiatus for so long, and now its publication schedule is a little bit more difficult to follow along with. It's not quite there yet, but I feel like it also has potential. So
Yeah, and like with Witch Watch, it might be too episodic. Like
mhm.
in Witch Watch, from the creator behind Sket Dance. So if you've
Yeah,
seen Sket Dance, you kind of understand what Witch Watch's perspective is having these little episodic adventures. And that's kind of what Megan's alluding to in the no stakes, in that like, we saw what happened with Spy Family, in that people
mhm.
love Spy Family, but at the same time, like there were so many
It's not the
weeks
new
of
My
just
Hero.
Yeah.
yes, there were so many weeks of like episodic adventures that people were like, by the end of season one, they're like, well, we like it. We like spending time with his family, but season two was nowhere near as big of a hit. Yes, there's a movie. Yes, there's all that stuff. But, it's episodic stories, unfortunately, don't make for like an exciting Shonen Jump monolith. Like, you need that's part of the question too, is like a new My Hero Academia. Unfortunately, yeah, like Megan said, it kind of has to be Naruto again. Like you kind of have to do the everyman within the bigger world of people who are stronger than them, and you kind of need to do that. And I don't know. Looking at like the rundown of series, is there something like that right now where there's like a powerless everyman who is like fighting an uphill battle throughout the series?
For for Shonen Jump, like, that's the thing, there's really not. I mean, like, even when we
Yeah,
met Chihiro, like, a lovely character coming from really difficult beginnings, but he doesn't feel like an everyman to me. Like, he very
yeah,
much he's got a purpose. He was, like, it feels something like I feel like Chihiro as a character in Kagurabachi has more of a driven purpose to, like, somebody you would see in
revenge.
Jujutsu Kaisen again.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah,
again, like, he's not even like Yuji in that sense. Like, Yuji came from, like, "Oh, like, I can run really fast and I can throw this discus really far, but I don't know anything about these curses," until, he's put in the situation with Megumi that begins. Um, it really doesn't feel like we have that everyman yet, which is what all of the pillars of really Shonen Jump start with. Goku came from a real humble origin,
Mhm.
and then, he's blown up into something with, being one of the last Saiyans, et cetera, et cetera. Naruto started off as an absolute pariah in his village, and we've since learned about all of his pedigree and reputation that has since been built up. It's the same thing with Bleach and Ichigo. He was just a normal high school student seeing spirits. We didn't know anything about his backstory. We're missing that right now in Shonen
Mhm.
Jump, which is what I think is not a great situation. But I will say there are other series from other publishers that are doing this. Probably the most, you know, the one that I'm paying to most attention right now is Gachikuta, which is from Kodansha, which is kind of a post I'd say like kind of post-apocalyptic,
Mhm.
apocalyptic, action series. It reminds me of, Battle Angel Alita in some ways, talking about, the higher up,
Mm.
you know, you know, echelon of society, and then there's this poor kid that is living in the slums, and eventually after a tragedy gets pushed down literally into the pit that is underneath this upper echelon and has to work his way back up to get revenge. It feels like he is more akin to that everyday layman for a shonen series. I just think it's maybe a little bit too dark to be something of a pillar in the shonen society, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong.
I think that's a great one to bring up, because I think that, like, if you were to ask me what and you, Megan and Nick, you guys bring up great points when it comes to, like, there isn't really a My Hero Academia is in and of itself like its own. There isn't really a substitute for that. But within the case of uh Gachikuta, that is going to be adapted by Studio Bones, the same folks who did My Hero Academia, into an anime, as well as it looks very much like Horikoshi's style. Like, I did read a
Yeah, it's
couple of
got that
chapters.
that bubbly, rounded art style. It's
Yeah,
very
yeah. So
similar.
like, so while I think that, like, and Megan and Nick, you guys kind of mentioned a lot of, like, the idea of, like, the everyman and, like, these shonen universes. I think that when it comes to the things that were really successful, whether you look at Dragon Ball, One Piece, Black Clover, Jujutsu Kaisen, you are able to boil it down with, there is a vast, colorful collection of characters. They are in a universe that is, like, focused on one element, whether that be, like, Dragon Ball is martial arts, Jujutsu Kaisen is the supernatural, One Piece is pirates, Black Clover is more magic, Bleach is, the afterlife, Grim Reaper kind of thing. And is there a property that is like that can also have, like, universal appeal? And that's the tricky thing, because, like, My
Yeah.
Hero Academia
It,
and One Piece are loved by, like, kids and adults and stuff like that. I don't
Mhm.
necessarily see a world where Kagurabachi is loved by kids. Like, that's kind of the thing, is
yeah.
that, like,
I
and I
think
don't.
the only thing that holds it back, and I love the art style of Kagurabachi, please do not get me
Mhm,
wrong, but it is more difficult to approach for a kid.
mhm,
'Cause it is
mhm.
Yeah.
it is a
That's
very sharp series.
And
That's
Dan
what I
to
mean.
Dan
It's
is that same kind of thing. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if Dan to Dan can become beloved by
Right.
children.
Right. That it there's that maturity rating to it.
Mhm,
I
yeah. Yes. It boils down to My Hero Academia had superheroes. Naruto had ninjas. Like Evan said, like One Piece is pirates. Is there something that a series could like pick on that general genre level? I Is there? That's very tough. And I bet that's what Shueisha is looking at right now. They're looking at whoever's submitting right now. It's like, okay, who has a very
oh man,
general idea?
I do not envy the editorial
Yeah.
staff at Shueisha right now and all the manuscripts they're pouring over. I mean, I already feel bad for the creator of Kagurabachi because I feel like he feels the entire weight of Weekly Shonen Jump is on his back at this point because, we don't have something as monolithic as My Hero Academia banked to step into this next era. But I feel like Kagurabachi is a really strong, and with saying this, I do want to make the caveat. Anime is always changing. Shonen does have really kind of restricted tropes that it deals with, but you look at something like Jujutsu Kaisen, you look at something like Kagurabachi. I feel like they're very equitable. I'm gonna say it now. Nothing will ever be equitable to One Piece, so it kind of exists on its own as a pillar. But now we kind of have this space where Shueisha could do something unexpected and out of the box to try to push something that we don't foresee with like maybe an everyman character into that spot. But when you're going to look at the bottom line and Shueisha is going to look at like, okay, well, My Hero Academia sold this many issues a year. These are the things about it that was successful. We need another series that can replicate that while being something new. There are pieces of that puzzle that the Shueisha team are figuring out for the new era that I don't think they currently have in publication. My request, whether they listen to me or not, is we've done the isekai stuff. We've done. I'm so tired. I'm so tired of that. I feel like there is a major gap of fantasy fiction and fantasy works, a la Lord of the Rings or something, that we're now starting to kind of get back into the shonen franchise that isn't related to isekai. Fantasy has been overrun with isekai titles, I'd say in the last 5-10 years. I would really like some fantasy that doesn't, approach on that. I feel like Black Clover started to get in that area, but it's so focused on its kind of magical units that we don't get a full-blown fantasy like we've seen with successes such as Delicious in Dungeon and Free Aaron, which don't feel like traditional, shonen tales. I feel like fantasy definitely has, the room to expand to give us something that could be the next pillar for My Hero Academia, because there are things in fantasy that you can boil down to simple, tropes. You have ninjas, you have, for Naruto, you have superheroes. For My Hero, you have witches or something like that. There's something that can be done that I feel like won't tread on the space that Black Clover has set up for itself. So that's my
yeah, like my final cap on this is like, try knights again, right? Like try a kid with a big sword, and then like visions of Asta, maybe some guts in it, maybe like a little bit of sprinkling all that stuff, and there you go. There's your next big hit. Do knights. Try knights again. Try like I don't know, Arthurian stuff. Don't do 7 deadly sins, but do 7 deadly sins.
Oh man.
Please don't do that.
I'll go in the exact opposite direction and say do robots, do technology. I would like to see something.
That's what Masashi Kishimoto tried to do.
He tried and failed. R.I.P. So, but no, Evan might be right. Like, let's combine them. Let's do night robots.
Robot
put it in space.
I'm going to say this right now. We see a Robot Knight series come on to Shueisha in the next couple years. It's because of us.
And throw it in space. Say it's like not an Earth, but like I don't know, Earth Nexus or something. Like call it like throw Gundam in there just for the heck of it. Be like, this is like the world. This is the Federation of Planets. I'm a knight serving, and this is my giant robot that I fight in, or I turn into a giant robot, a la Star Blazers. Like let's.
Oh my gosh!
That way you can have.
Got it. It's the Federation of Earth. This character, young boy, out playing in the desert, knights himself because it's such a poor planet. Nobody has anything. Discovers the secret power to turn into a space robot, and then must defend and must get revenge after his planet is blown up.
Yes, make it a magical girl-esque transformation sequence.
Copyright it. I've taken the best of Kaiju No.8, taking Gundam, I've taken it. That's it. Copyrighted.
Yeah.
Anime Nation 2024. You heard it here first, guys. All right. Well, that's our official pitch as a team. If you want to hear more about this anime that I just made up on the fly, please reach out to me on social media. I would love some fan art. You can find me on social at Megan Peters CB. Nick, where can they find you?
You can find me at Voltron on all the socials, as well as Pop Culture Social Call with Anna Rumor.
And Evan, where can people find you?
You guys can find me on all the socials at EV Comedy.
Awesome. Well, again, we've talked about what the future of Shonen looks like. We want to hear from you guys. Let us know what your picks are, what your theories and petitions are. We want to know. If you want to listen to other nerdy shows just like this one, Comic Book has you covered. We have Comic Book Nation, The Pull List, Quick Save, While Podcast has appeared, Phase Zero. If you want to listen to something nerdy, we have something for you to tune into. As for us, we are live every Tuesday, so you can come join us as we make up insane manga pitches and anime pitches and also watch me cry over Chainsaw Man. So we're all good here. So again, thank you for joining. Thank you for joining the Anime Initiative, of course, and we will see you guys next week.